The sun dipped low over the crowded rooftops of Manila, casting a warm golden glow across the narrow streets. Inside a tiny house at the end of the alley, Eli, a thin 12-year-old boy with wide, hopeful eyes, stood barefoot on a cracked tile floor. His small hands gripped a plastic karaoke microphone, the cord tangled like vines at his feet. From the battered speaker came the familiar tune of Elvis Presley's "Can't Help Falling in Love." Eli sang softly at first, his voice trembling, then growing stronger, richer, a voice far too big for such a small room. His mother, Liza, leaned against the doorway, smiling through tears. She had worked 2 jobs that day, yet hearing her son sing made every ounce of exhaustion disappear. Outside, the neighborhood kids laughed as they chased each other, occasionally shouting teases toward Eli's window. "Hey, Elvis, sing us a love song," they joked. But Eli didn't stop. He closed his eyes, imagining himself under bright lights, a microphone shining in his hand, a crowd cheering his name. When the song ended, the karaoke machine crackled and went silent. Liza clapped softly. "Anik," she said gently, "one day, the world will hear your voice." Eli turned to her, shy but glowing. "Do you really think so, Mama?" She nodded. "I know so. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday." Eli looked at the faded photo of Elvis Presley taped to the wall, his idol, his inspiration. He whispered, "Someday, I'll sing like you, Elvis, maybe even better." The city lights flickered outside as Eli pressed play again, his voice echoing through the night, a small sound in a big world, but filled with a dream that refused to fade. Weeks passed since Eli's nightly karaoke sessions, but his dream only grew stronger. One humid afternoon, he returned home from school to find his mother, Liza, sitting at the kitchen table, tears in her eyes, but this time, they were tears of joy. In her trembling hands, she held a white envelope. "Eli," she whispered, "you're going to Ireland." He blinked, unsure if he had heard her right. "Ireland? Mama, what do you mean?" Liza smiled, her voice breaking. "I've been saving every peso from the cafe and the laundry shop. There's an open audition for Ireland's Got Talent. I sent your video, and they want you to come." Eli froze. His heart pounded like a drum. Ireland, a place he had only seen in pictures, a world away from the narrow streets of Manila. He hugged his mother tightly, his small arms wrapping around her shoulders. "Mama, I'll make you proud. I promise." A week later, at Ninoy Aquino International Airport, Eli stood among travelers with shiny suitcases. His old guitar was strapped to his back, the same one his uncle had given him years ago. The boarding announcement echoed through the hall. As he waved goodbye, Liza's smile trembled. "Don't be scared, Anik. Just sing from your heart." On the plane, Eli stared out the window as the city lights of Manila disappeared beneath the clouds. His stomach fluttered with nerves, but his mother's words echoed in his mind. When he landed in Dublin, the cold air bit at his cheeks. Everything looked different, the gray skies, the unfamiliar faces, the strange accents. But when he saw the banner reading, "Ireland's Got Talent, auditions this way," he felt a spark inside. Eli tightened his grip on his guitar and whispered, "Let's do this, Elvis." The lights of the Ireland's Got Talent stage blazed like stars. Backstage, Eli stood clutching his guitar, his palms slick with sweat. Around him, contestants laughed, rehearsed, or chatted excitedly, but he stood silent, eyes closed, whispering a quiet prayer. He could feel his heart thudding in his chest, faster than the beat of any song he had ever sung. A stagehand called out, "Next up, Eli Santos from the Philippines." Eli's breath caught. That was his cue. He stepped forward, his sneakers squeaking softly on the polished floor. As he walked onto the stage, the bright lights nearly blinded him. The vast crowd stretched out before him, faces he didn't know, eyes full of curiosity. At the judges' table sat Simon Cowell, arms crossed, expression unreadable. To Eli, he looked intimidating, the man who had seen it all, who could destroy a dream with a single word. The host smiled kindly. "Hello there. What's your name, and where are you from?" Eli swallowed hard. My name is Eli Santos, I'm from the Philippines." His accent drew a few smiles from the audience. "And what will you be singing for us tonight?" Eli took a deep breath. "I'll be singing Can't Help Falling in Love, by Elvis Presley." Simon raised an eyebrow. "Elvis, huh, that's a big song for a little guy." A ripple of laughter passed through the crowd. Eli's hands trembled as he positioned the microphone. For a second, he wanted to run, to go back home, where no one could judge him. Then he remembered his mother's voice, "Sing from your heart." He lifted his head, took one deep breath, and began to strum the first soft chords. The theater fell completely silent. the first note trembled through the hall, soft, uncertain, then grew, warm and steady, wrapping around every ear in the audience. Eli's voice floated over the stage, pure, emotional, and hauntingly beautiful. The guitar chords blended perfectly with his tone, as if the strings themselves shared his story. Greater than, wise men say, only fools rush in. The crowd leaned in. The laughter from before vanished. Even Simon Cowell, known for his steely composure, straightened in his seat. There was something raw in that voice, something no training could teach. Eli closed his eyes as he sang, imagining he was back in Manila, his mother standing in the doorway, smiling. He wasn't just singing Elvis's song, he was living it, pouring his heart into every word. Greater than, but I can't help falling in love with you. By the second verse, people in the audience were already wiping their eyes. A young woman in the front row pressed her hands to her chest, a man beside her filmed on his phone, whispering, "He's incredible." As Eli reached the final chorus, the lights dimmed softly, and a spotlight caught his face, tear-streaked, glowing with emotion. His voice cracked slightly, but that imperfection made it even more real. The final note lingered in the air, trembling with feeling before fading into silence. For a moment, no one moved. Then, thunderous applause erupted. The crowd rose to their feet, cheering, clapping, shouting his name. Simon Cowell sat frozen, his eyes glistening. He blinked rapidly, then smiled, a small, rare smile that meant everything. A single tear slid down his cheek. He whispered, almost to himself, "That was magic." Eli looked up, breathless, eyes wide. For the first time, he truly believed his dream had come alive. The applause thundered through the studio, echoing like a heartbeat. Eli stood frozen on the stage, his small hands still clutching the guitar. His chest rose and fell with each shaky breath, eyes wide as he looked out at the sea of cheering faces. He had never heard a sound so beautiful, the sound of people believing in him. The host's voice broke through the noise. Eli Santos, from the Philippines, everyone. The crowd roared louder, some chanting, "Golden buzzer. Golden buzzer." Eli blinked in disbelief. He glanced toward the judges' table, 3 of them were already standing, clapping with wide smiles. Then his eyes met Simon Cowell's. The man who had looked so stern before now sat motionless, emotion written all over his face. Simon leaned forward, elbows on the table, and said softly into the mic, "Eli, I don't cry easily." But that was one of the most heartfelt performances I've ever seen. The audience gasped, then cheered louder. Tears welled in Eli's eyes. "Thank you, sir," he whispered, his voice cracking. Simon looked down, took a deep breath, then stood. Without another word, he reached forward and slammed the golden buzzer. The crowd exploded. Gold confetti burst from the ceiling, swirling around Eli like a dream come true. He covered his mouth, overwhelmed, as tears streamed down his cheeks. The other judges stood to hug Simon, who just smiled through misty eyes. Backstage, a large screen showed Eli's mother, Liza, watching the performance on video call. She was crying too, whispering, "Anik, you did it, you really did it." As gold shimmered in the spotlight, Eli lifted his guitar and waved to the audience. For that one perfect moment, the boy from Manila stood not as a dreamer, but as a star.